Before heading to the video, if you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe it and don't forget to click the bell icon for the latest update notification. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. Stay tuned with learnbay.co. Happy learning!
Dealing with sampling methods and because you will realize that at some point, okay, you guys remember your experiment, I think on the first day, right? When we did about mean and mean and the standard deviation things with different number of samples, what did you observe? Hello.
Yeah, that as the samples increased, the we tended to go towards more towards the mean and standard deviation was like
Of the population,
converging.
right?
It was converging.
Exactly. So the problem is, okay, right, that time we were just dealing with the mean and the maybe the standard deviation. And you will also see this problem coming in the probability distribution once we go into inferential statistics. Okay, that how with a less number of points we can make these assumptions and still be thinking that we are going in the correct direction. I don't think so I have to explain the types of variables. You understand what are the different types of variables we have. So what is quantitative? So which basically you measure in numericals, like, okay, so anything that can be measured in numericals, that can be called quantitative. Okay, so it could be like your volume, it could be your weight or mass, it could be the number of pixels, height, weight, picture resolution. Okay, what is qualitative? Qualitative is which is measured in categories like gender, race, some kind of medical diagnosis, labels that we put on data could be qualitative. Okay, that is kind of categories. Now what is discrete, guys? Discrete variable is which are separate categories. We are talking about like grades, A plus, A minus. Okay, and then we have continuous values which have infinite values, basically the types of floating points that can have infinite values between, let's say, even just any two random numbers. Okay, now what is sampling? A sample is a smaller collection of units from a population used to determine the truth about the mentioned population. Uh, so it is just a smaller collection of units from a larger population. Now, why we bother with samples is because it will require less resources, so time and computation would be saved. And you can still trust the given accuracy or given metrics or whatever the output is. You can trust them mathematically. And I will try to show you in later exam, especially in inferential statistics, that how close they can come. No, no, actually the graph is slightly trickier. Okay, so what he is saying is quantitative can be discrete as well as continuous, right? That is actually what true actually. Quantitative can be discrete. So so if you are taking integers, you are taking in discrete terms. Okay, and if you are taking quantitative as float values, then it is continuous, right? So I'm not saying they are two different things or something. They basically get very intermixed with each other. So if you were to try to draw their graph, actually it gets slightly intermixed after a while. So let's say you start with qualitative and this is quantitative. Okay, now this is the whole problem with qualitative and quantitative. How does it works, or how does it goes ahead? So let's say if you are trying to do in qualitative, so one is, let's say, your string and one is your numbers. Okay, so this is a separate category. We will not talk about string, but the problem is numbers, or you could still have integers. Okay, fine. Now same is with quantitative. It can also have integers, but it can also have floats. See my problem? Now integers and both of them are considered discrete. Float is of course separate, continuous. See the problem? Like to draw this is slightly problematic actually. Does that answer your question? Okay, Abhijit. So what is the need of sampling is because we want to do same computation with less resources, and the accuracy should be in near around truth. It should not be very far away. So we want to do sampling. Okay. So we basically want to collect a smaller collection of units from the larger population. Okay. To basically determine the truth about mentioned population, not just the sample. We want to understand the population, but with a small sample or with a sample. Now, I will tell you about something that happened to me actually at one point was, okay, so there is one thing called study population, then there is something called target population, and then there is something called sample. Okay. So the three factors that influence sample representativeness is sampling procedure, how do you sample, and we are only going to read about sampling procedure. Sample size will come a bit later. Participation is something that we can't really explain here. Okay. So what sampling procedure we are going to talk about, like what kind of sampling procedure one can use. What is sample size? What is the optimal sample size, which will be giving you the mathematical truths as close to the population as you want. And then there is something called participation. Okay. So actually in my master's, I was working in a, how do I say, bio research labs. I was doing machine learning. I'm not like a person very attached to biology or something. Okay. So basically I was into this bio research lab, and we were doing this study on like people who have bipolar disease. Anyone knows what is a bipolar disease?
No.
So like who are into anything into extreme, like I mean, say if they're kind of normal, they'll be suddenly like if they have this anger thing that will become extreme, something like
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, you're right, Sandeep. Basically, what bipolar disease. So the issue was bipolar. So we were trying to track suicidality among bipolar patients. Okay, bipolar 1 and 2 patients. Now, bipolar detection is first of all tough. Many times it is getting confused with a lot of different mental issues. In most simplest ways, what bipolar really is how to explain. Okay, so bipolar people are most of the days normal. Okay, they will function normally under the ideas of society, how a normal society should function, and they will look normal in almost every perspective. And this is why the detection is so hard. But then there are trigger scenarios. Okay, there are certain triggers, and that can be unique to different individuals. It is not same for everyone. Okay, yes, anger happens to be one of the major ones, but it could be sadness, frustration. Okay, so any of these emotions basically trigger a different kind of personality or some extreme behaviors that they start to do. And many times what happens is when that episode is over, they almost forget that they were the person who did all that. Okay, so the idea is some people harm themselves and they cut themselves and they die. Okay, so to track like did they really mean to suicide, kill themselves, or it was an accident is very hard. And we later realized that data set was not optimal. So one of the things that we had to do is we to understand what bipolar patients regularly go through, we had to talk to them and their family and friends. So let's say the study population was, let's say, because this research was relevant for everyone in the world or whoever is at least in bipolar, diagnosed as bipolar, or could be diagnosed as a bipolar. Okay. But then the target population. Now our university was in New Mexico, it's a state in USA. And over there, let's say the target population was, let's say, around 100 miles of us. Okay. So even if the study population is large, it could be the whole USA, all the registered or patients who have been declared bipolar by like various insurance claims and everything, that could become your study population. But then target population is that something you will be able to reach. Okay, that is, let's say, financially viable at least. Okay, that you can go ahead and interview them in person or through Skype or some other medium. But then again, you have to take a sample. Even you will not be able to reach every bipolar patient, let's say in a 100-mile radius of from your point. Uh, so what you do is you try to send out various emails and through various agencies, and so universities in USA like collaborate through various agencies as well to reach out such patients. Okay, and they are offered like a Amazon gift card of $50 or something like that, where we basically encourage them to come forward and talk to us. And so I've been to like a couple of meetings over there, and I would take notes and I would talk to a few people, And on a normal day, they will look very normal. And of course, we did not witness any bipolar incidents in front of us or something like that. But that's what I'm trying to explain you, that the problem was why we were giving the $50 Amazon card.
For them to come forward.
Yes, to make this happen. Because in our society, and unfortunately in USA as well, talking about mental health is a big taboo. Okay, sorry. Because people don't like to talk about this stuff. Even if you have some mental issue, or if you're depressed or something, bipolar patients, schizophrenia, it is kind of pushed down in our families and in our neighborhoods. And even I saw this happening in USA as well. So we had to give them some kind of a participation incentive so that they come forward. And again, these we would always mask their names and identities and everything. So even in our database, we will not write their actual names. We will give them some code name actually, so that even if data set got leaked or something, no one identity will ever be revealed under any circumstances. So the problem is participation. Many times when you will do this with real world or real public, you will realize this. The participation is a big issue. A lot of startups actually, when they start, you know what they do? They will randomly send out Google surveys, or sometimes the founder will post a Google survey on the LinkedIn itself, their LinkedIn, and whoever is reading, if they can help them out. So even I have gotten like a lot of these Google surveys from my various friends and colleagues who were trying to start their startups, or now they have their own startup. At earlier days, they were just trying to determine what people want, and they were just trying to sample it. Okay. So they could just try to send a Google survey and just try to understand what kind of people they are dealing with, or what kind of issues. And the biggest issue they said is people don't participate. Unless there is a financial incentive, why would people participate all of a sudden? So remember, even if you figure out the sampling procedure, and even if you know your sampling size, in real world participation could be a big issue, depending on your problem statement. So please be wary of that. And sometimes it induces biases, and I will show you where the bias will come. Okay. So this is clear, first of all.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, we will go for the methods. Okay. All right. So we have different methods, and like random sampling, stratified random sampling. Let's go one by one actually. Okay. Random sampling is the most simplest sampling, and most of the days this is the sampling you should do ideally. Okay. What is random sampling? It is applicable when the population is small, homogeneous, and readily available. Okay. Basically, all the subsets of the frame are given an equal probability of being selection, because the idea is each element of the frame has an equal probability of being selected as a sample. And basically, you can use a lottery system, some kind of random number generator. So you basically have done this already. Remember, you use random.choice to select the samples of 100, 1,000, and 10,000.
Yeah.
So that was random sampling that you did. Okay. You did not try to have any bias about the system, or you just try to did the random sampling. Okay. All right. So this is simple. Like this is not something actually people take much time to understand. Pros, estimates are very easy to calculate. And again, it is an equal probability system design. EPS means equal probability system, and means all the frames or all the points basically get equal probability of being selected. But if the sampling frame is pretty large, this method might become a bit impractical. And the biggest problem actually, though, that is not even a biggest problem, because we have computers, right? So it doesn't really matter. The problem is the second one. Minority subgroup of interest in population may not be present in sufficient sample to study. Did anyone understood the second one? What did we just say here?
For non-homogeneous part, means that will be ignored.
Sorry, I did not hear you. Can you just repeat
that? I'm not sure whether I'm saying correct or not. But
Uh-huh.
for for random sampling, all the analysis or inference is happening on the basis of homogeneous data.
Yes, exactly.
But if non-homogeneous kind of characteristics will be coming into that sample, then that will be ignored. Is it
Yes,
like that?
that could be one chance. Okay, yeah, that could be good answer. And
Like for example, we can say that we are studying a population, and like for example, India has some minority caste,
right.
so that caste should have more number of people representing that group. So that will not be considered over here.
Forget the more numbers. Sometimes even the proportionality is not maintained. Forget more numbers. Okay, proportionality is also not maintained because you are choosing randomly, right?
Yeah.
So that is the one and only major issue which I see with random sampling. Okay, otherwise random sampling, most of the days you can just get away with random sampling and it should not be a big issue. But this is the problem when you have a lot of minority sub-interest or minority groups within your data set present. You can choose to, okay, so let me give you a simple example.
Sir, sorry.
Uh-huh.
No, I was saying a good example could be, let's say we were taking an average height of the people in the world. Then if we don't have proper representation of America and India population, then it will be skewed. So that is,
It's not just that. Okay, okay, actually I will give you. So I'm reading a book these days. It is called The Polymath. Very interesting book actually. Okay, so basically it talks about people who are brilliant, or basically it talks about people who are just not specialized in one domain. Actually they are pretty good in a lot of domains, like Leonardo da Vinci was like is a polymath of all the times. Okay, so basically what it was talking also about is that but the author very easily and immediately, like within second or third chapter, makes it very clear that even I'm doing this study of polymaths and I'm trying to explain what how polymath works and how everyone can maybe a polymath at the end of the day. He told that based on our history and our representativeness, what has happened is because most of the times history has been written by people who basically ruled or who were the victors. Okay, so basically first of all what it did is it marginalized women. So if you try to do a polymath study, if this is the Venn diagram, okay, the women might get like this much share. Okay, maybe even this is too big. Okay, women just get this much share, but there is no scientific evidence that why a woman cannot be a polymath. The issue is the way our societies were always meant around, or the way our societies were built. It never allowed women to explore different domains, okay, for various n number of different reasons. So even if it in this book it looks like, and the author makes the claim, I think in second chapter very clearly about this, that even most of the polymaths that we are gonna show you are gonna be males, and they are gonna come from Anglo-European societies itself. It has no meaning. And he also said that same about African and Asian countries, that because these countries were ruled by these Europeans, even if there were polymaths, their history or their story was not reported to everyone. Okay, so first of all, try not to understand it like this. So there's a problem of this association and the causation issue, that you should not make, you should think like it as association, you should not think it like a causation that women cannot be polymath. That would be a very wrong statement, but we just don't have enough examples. Even in the book he tries very desperately, but there are like very few examples, to be very honest. But he makes it very clear at that point that it is not the cause. Okay, that's the cause is something different, the way society was developed, and it still is, to be very honest, in a lot of countries, like even including India. So what the problem is, if you were to take a random sample, if you had to write a book, and if you took some prominent polymaths and some random samples to show you some diversity, did you see even by taking some random points, I'm completely missing any women polymath who might have existed? See the problem? So let's say this is 99%. Okay, 99% of men examples are there in the world, let's say. because of systemic reasons. And this is the male. And maybe this is just 1% of females. Okay. Okay, if we were to take 20 random samples to write a book, okay. Is there even a guarantee that even a single female would be picked if I do a random sampling? Exactly, Abhijit. That is the crux of the problem. That ideally it looks like, yeah, what is the problem? Why can't I just take a random sampling? It is unbiased, right? Yes, it might be unbiased if your data was unbiased. But unfortunately, our data is not unbiased. It is really the effect of whatever our society has been for last 200, 300 years. It is just reflective of that. So basically, I think Google made this chatbot, or Microsoft, I'm forgetting who, I think Google research it was, okay. So basically it led Google to kind of survey research papers from last 250 years, okay. So basically a question was put like, who is a scientist? And Google basically, after like going through all these research papers, says, or this bot says, that a scientist is a male who does this, means does scientific research, conducts scientific experiments. Now, basically that is the fundamental issue, right? Even if you were to do a random sampling, yes, you will find that most of the scientists happen to be males. But then the machine learning algorithms or any deep learning algorithm doesn't understand the causation problem, that what might be causing it, okay? And if you just do a random sampling, it might not solve the problem. So this is the biggest concern actually, guys, that you cannot actually do random sampling in all the cases. This is clear because I really want to stress this point, because you will run into this problem a lot. That if you do not look very carefully on your data, you might miss out on the minority subgroup. So maybe random sampling looks the best way to do things. Believe me, in some cases, it is a disaster to do a random sampling. You just can't do random sampling over there. Especially when humans are involved, be very, very careful. Okay, moving along. Then you can do a systematic sampling. It's like, how do I say? It's like taking every 10th name from a telephone directory. It's like a systematic order, but you keep choosing regularly. Okay, so I can show you a simple process, that if there are a lot of, let's say, points. So systematic sampling is really simple. Let's say you randomly start from any point, okay? And then you make a jump, okay? So you say, I will basically make a jump of 5 or 4 points, something like that. Okay. So this is what systematic sampling really is, that at regular intervals, you keep making these jumps. So K could be 5 or 5 in this case, I guess. So total number of samples is, or sample number is large n is the total number divided by K.
So, sir, a good example for this would be, let's say, my SIP, systematic investment plan. I pick up on stock price every once in a month,
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly. So systematic investment plans are like that, or any kind of regular EMIs or regular payments you make for your investment, like in NPS or stuff. There are a lot of examples of systematic sampling itself.
Okay.
So, sir, how that K position is being decided?
That is, the first position is that case size is chosen by you. That's your parameter. You choose what you want. So it depends on how many numbers of samples you want. Let's say you have total number of values as 10,000 and I want 200 samples. So what ideally K I should choose?
50.
Sorry?
No.
50? Yeah, you are right. Okay. The first value, the first jumping point could be anywhere, but then it has to follow the intervals of 50. Okay.
But in that case also, might be some dissimilar data can be ignored.
Sorry, what kind of data could be ignored? I did not get it. Sorry about that.
My mean to say, two individual datas are there. Suppose like that random sampling, the minorities values were ignored. So like that, if that non-homogeneous data will be there in that, and suppose we are taking in a order, then in middle of that order, that other data can be there and that can be ignored.
Yeah, so ideally, say once very, although you are correct here, I'm not saying this is wrong, but one thing that you should ideally do is you should always shuffle or randomly shuffle your data, okay?
Then sorting, you are saying.
No, not sorting. I'm talking about shuffling, means randomly shuffle the data, first of all. So you already introduced randomness, so there is a less issue, but yeah, you are right, basically. It has a serious disadvantage. Can anyone tell me what is the disadvantage?
We get similar data.
If
Basically,
some kind of repetitiveness is in process for, then
yeah,
that
if you
thing
have a
will be.
periodicity or repetitiveness, yes, you are right. Then you are in real problem. Because think about this, let me change the color. Let's say the blue one exists here and it also exists at the same intervals, okay? So let's say blue one always comes at the second one. See, this blue or violet one will never get picked. Getting the gist, or like getting the idea, like what will happen? Hello.
Yes, sir. So,
Yes, clear.
or
So
if the
how?
blue one is there in the right position, then only blue will get picked, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So how would we solve this problem?
I think you
Then
said
we should bisect that state,
you
that case
shuffle them.
size.
Maybe not just bisection. You can try different case sizes. You can try
Yeah,
like
yeah.
maybe run 2, 3 experiments. KS
Mhm.
45, maybe KS 35. The hope is once in a while it will start to get picked as well. Okay, or randomly shuffle the data. Okay, but although in a lot of systematic examples, we do have an ordered list, so random shuffling is not allowed. So if random shuffling is not allowed for that reason, like a telephone directory, you cannot really randomly shuffle over there. So because telephone directory is ordered by default, means based on names, it is ordered already, right? So there is no chance of random shuffling. So just use different K values, or it means run the experiment 2, 3 times, and then your biases or this kind of mistake will be basically rectified. So you will have to run the experiment with different K values, okay? Very simple to implement. There is not much maths there. There is a very simple logic to implement this. But again, not something that is very useful to be very honest, because we have these powerful computers, we can always go ahead and choose some kind of a random sampling iterator, or like we can make some customization to random sampling, and maybe we can do much better than systematic sampling. But it's a one way of sampling that you should definitely know about. Now, the better way to do things is called stratified sampling. You understand the word called strata? Group or subgroup? Let's call it a small subgroup basically. So basically the idea is you separate the points based on their subgroups, okay? And now in each subgroup you do a random sampling. That's it. This picture will explain this way better, okay? This is what we are asking you to do. Choose the population, Okay. First divide them into the proper strata, okay, their own subgroups, and then you do random sampling over there, no problem.
What's one question?
There, sorry.
So the numbers you pick then depends upon the population for each strata, or is it like, because I can see yellows are more and the reds are lesser, so is it?
No, that is the proportion. It will try to maintain the population proportion. So stratified sampling, one sec. If you are using stratified sampling, it maintains population proportion. So if you choose 20 points now, let's say, so whatever the proportion of different strata groups are, they will be adequately represented. So based on maybe the population, maybe 20 will be divided into 3 different ones. So it will, let's say, choose 6 points randomly. Again, that will be a random pick from strata 1, subgroup 1. Okay, 7 random points from strata 2, and similarly 7 random points from strata 3. Make sense?
Yeah, got that.
That's it. So in stratified sampling, you have to maintain the ratio. That is given. Like, you cannot ignore that point. Okay, so what could be the issue with stratified sampling? So we okay, first of all, sorry, what was stratified? What is strata basically?
My light of it.
Sorry.
We can say subclasses. Stratas are subclasses, subcategories.
Subclasses, wonderful. Yeah, that's a good answer. It's basically subclasses. Yeah. So how do we do stratified sampling?
So stratified sampling, let's say there are a group of 100 people, and in that basically there are 3 groups, and we arrange them based upon some features and some things, and after that based upon proportion it will be selected.
Exactly. So first you divide them into subgroups, and whatever amount of total outcomes you want, total out of samples, this will be again taken out in a proportion of their division itself. Okay. So what could be the problems or what could be the issues here? And this representation is a good representation to explain that how stratified sampling is working. That first you group them, and then based on the proportion you take out randomly. Then internally it is just a random pick. Okay, again.
So we spoke about minorities. We said like minorities can be excluded in this. So that is the one problem actually.
Sorry, are you sure?
I think that is what.
Yeah, minorities should be taken care, right? We have classified them according to.
I hope you are not missing. Try not to miss 2 points. Okay, that was the problem with random sampling. I hope you remember that. That in random sampling it could happen. There are violet, violet pins. Let's say they can be completely ignored randomly. If I pick, there might not be a single violet pin over there when I take out all the samples. Right.
Yeah, I confused actually. Yeah.
So in a that is the purpose of stratified sampling.
Yeah, we should not miss. Yeah, we should not miss. That's why. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Still, anyone else can think about a problem that might still occur?
Individually, we might be reducing the sample size for each strata. As in, like, individually, the sample size decreases. Let's say total population is 100, but the moment we stratify it, and it is 30, 30, 40, let's say, then we have to only choose from 30, and then.
But my that's the design, right? I hope you understand. Means, of course, I can go with random, but just to avoid the problems of random, we went over there.
I understand. What I was coming more from the point was, if we reduce the population, sampling becomes better, I think. Then I think my answer is wrong. If we reduce the population, sampling becomes better, because then I can choose from the population much better.
Right.
Yes, my answer is wrong.
Okay, so what happens is
I have a question over there.
Sure, please.
The population, right? The source of the data is the population. So populated data, when we are picking it, if it is goes which it is not a properly distributed population, then ideally the end of the sampling is also goes wrong, right?
Miss, could you just elaborate on this point? Like, I think you're going in the right direction, but a bit more elaboration.
The question here is the input for the sampling is the population.
True.
If the population values, how we populated values, or we have like it is not exactly matching, and this, the population is, if it is a population itself is random, the sampling end of the sampling results also it's not accurate, right?
Miss, but population is considered to be the class or whichever like subject study you are trying to do. Okay. So of course the idea is if the population is random, then of course that will be seeped into the samples itself.
So in this case, sampling is like a train, right? So if it is anything which is comes into the population, every time we need to tune that and getting the samples dynamically, and we need to populate it.
The idea is yes, you are thinking in the right direction. But remember, if the population itself is highly, how do I say, distributed or like highly randomized, or it has noisy points. Okay, so there are some other steps that you still have to do from EDN and stuff. I'm not saying that is not valid here. Noise removal, outlier detection, that still has to be done here. Okay, so there could be some outliers that you can kill first of all before doing any kind of sampling. Okay.
So first, tuning of the data has to be done. Then only we should go for sampling. So that randomized thing and all will be removed with that.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea, that basically your normal data cleaning steps and data pre-processing steps still have to be done. We are not questioning that part.
So the question I asked is, suppose I taken a one population from the population sample where we have only two categories. There is a chance.
I didn't know. You took a population from population sample?
Yeah, I had taken the random sample. From there random sample, I have populated some set of data, that is a populated values, where we may get the only two categories or three categories. Or we are in this case, how you are justifying that sample is exactly matching our business idea.
But you already said you took a sample. So
Correct.
like I'm not getting, like, if you already took a sample and if somehow it has a bias, like why do we need a justification here? Like it has a bias now because it was wrong, that the way you must have selected the sample itself is wrong here, right?
Okay.
I'm just trying to put 2 points together here. Like you have to understand, population is, let's say, whatever you have. But once you have selected and once you populate your rows or columns, whatever you have, that is already sampling.
Okay.
Unless you download the whole population data, you cannot call that population now. Okay. If you have taken any subset of the original set, okay, it can't be called population first of all. So you did already a sampling, and let's say you're trying to do double sampling, one sampling after another. So if your first sampling is wrong, of course it is gonna follow in the second sampling as well. If you want to correct, you will have to resample from the population itself now again.
Okay.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Now, there is not any major problem with stratified sampling, but there is just one problem. To maintain proportion, sometimes you will require a larger number of samples. Okay, just let me explain how does this works. So let's say a company, let's say, has this kind of representation. So company has 100 people. So this is your now population. People employ anyways you want to think. Okay, so a company has 100 employees. So this is the whole population. Now they want to send a team, or they want to send their some resumes, or they want to showcase some profile, let's say in a magazine, and they also want to showcase some diversity. Okay, diversity that has been captured by their overall workforce. Okay, now they want to be very fair, so they want to take a proper sample. Okay, now let's say they have 65 males, 30 females and 5 people identify as LGBTQ. Okay, so you have a different proportion. Now let's say if you just wanted to send 10 profiles only to the magazine or to some online blog, and you just want to highlight that what kind of diversity you have. What do you think is the problem here? And if you want to do a stratified sampling?
Actually, sir, this is what I was trying to get to. I was not able to verbalize it. So basically, then because you break it down to smaller components, the 100, if the population is 100, then this is anyway representative. But if let's say it was a 1 lakh population and we had taken 100 out and then done stratified, then we basically, this might not be fully representative as 5 and 30 and 65 for the larger population.
For the larger population, are you sure?
What I'm saying is 100, if you take as population, then this is fine. But if we were choosing from, let's say 10,000 or 1,000 resumes, and we have chosen 100 set of people, and then we are breaking it down, or might be, am I not verbalizing it still correctly?
Okay, let me give it a try, that maybe I can give you a better verbal explanation here. That what you are basically trying to say is some proportion of minority could be so small that it is it just, even if you try to convert, it will not convert to a full whole number if you, let's say, just try to take 100 samples. Is that what you are trying to tell?
In a way, but yeah, what you're saying makes sense. I'm still basically
not. Okay, let's just do the maths here. Okay, so this is 65% males. Okay, if you do stratified sampling, so 30% females and 5% LGBTQ. Okay, cool. Now in 10 profiles, how will you fit that 5%?
Either 0 or 1. You have to select one.
It can be a full profile or no profile, right?
Yeah, right.
But if you provide 1, then you are breaking your own rule now, because that is breaking the proportion.
Yeah, so kind of oversampling.
Yeah, so now you might have to take minimum 20 profiles to fit this number. But what if the magazine doesn't want 20 profiles then? This is the only problem.
This reminds me of a typical problem in business, that we have 10 people team, and every year management says 10% of the people have to be, bottom performers have to be moved out. Then what do you do? It comes to 0.5, 0.2, depending upon.
Yeah. So that can also be thought like grading on the curve, basically.
Yeah.
Like some people will be at middle, some people will be at extreme outlier, positive, some will be at negative. So you want to cut them off, basically.
Yeah, then how do you do it?
Someone has to be forced there, because that's the curve, that's how the curve works. So someone will be there, basically.
Yeah.
So it is just not that. Actually, one of times my friend was telling me this problem, that they had an annual hackathon in the company. So the company wanted to promote like more tech diversity and more technical expertise among women as well. So they I think made the team of 4 people for the hackathon, and they made a rule, okay, that every team must have one woman participant, okay, minimum. That they made a rule over there. So I asked them like how many like women overall, like so his was like a 200 company startup. It was all working in a same let's say on the same floor itself. So I was like, how is this possible? Like how much women like workforce your company even has? Because what you are asking is like 25%, right? You need to ensure that you must have 25%. So he was like, yeah, that is not the issue. We have like 30% of women in our company, almost 31, 32, something. He said that number. Okay. But the problem is women working in the tech roles. Now it's a tech hackathon, right? You have to understand this. So if a person or if a woman is working in an HR role, she will not be contributing in the tech hackathon anyways. Right. There are a lot of roles even in an organization which might not be exactly technical. And many times companies, to maintain the diversity, they will fill a lot of different roles with, let's say, women or some minorities. Okay. Now the problem is tech hackathon is tech intensive. Okay. So now you might be forced to work just to do that pigeonhole problem. First of all, that how to fill that one person properly, even if you do not have. So I just asked him like, how many people you think, or how many women do you think you have in the tech groups of yours? Okay. So he was like, we have barely like 16%. Now do you see the problem? What might be happening over there? Yeah, because even if you have 30% in the whole organization, but 16% only work in the tech one, okay? And because it's a deep tech company, so most people are still assigned to some tech job. And now they have to participate in hackathon, and it has been made a rule that at least one person should be a female. And now all female groups are allowed. So yes, 4 females can make their own hackathon group, and there is no forcing them that there should be a single male in that group. There is no force like that, but the reverse is true. Now, so what they had to do, they had to get some person who was not in the tech. She was doing some testing, but she was not much of a developer. So he was telling that this will give like a lot of team a disadvantage, because one person then is not very equipped to handle that problem. And of course, that also says a lot of the way our society is. It is just not the company's fault or something. It is just about how our society has been all the time. Even we are trying to progress very fast now. But that's, even I was talking about this yesterday about the polymath problem, basically, that even if we are trying to give education to everyone, very few people or women are still not considered equals, or are not given, how do I say, the equal encouragement to pursue tech, okay, throughout their lives. It is just like, okay, maybe you pursue tech for 5 years, then you get married, and then you leave everything. So that is causing these issues, which are again systematic. I'm not saying it is the company to blame for, but yeah, it is these systematic problems that sometimes get, and this is one of the examples, that if you just want 10 profiles, how will you fit this 5% LGBTQ? If you want to put even one LGBTQ, you break the proportion immediately. Yeah. So sometimes it is okay if everyone is agreeing, then there is no problem here. But yeah, that can easily happen in stratified sampling. That may be a proportion, if you try to really judge very heartedly stick to a proportion value, you might not get the representation that you are actually looking for. To do that, you will have to increase the sample size.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Is this clear? Like, what is the one disadvantage that you run into with stratified sampling? Of course, first of all, you will have to regroup first. So there would be even a cost to group them. If the data is already grouped, great. Otherwise, you will need to use your group by function from pandas first of all, just to do this. There is another problem that runs into while you are trying to examine multiple criteria. Stratifying variables may be related to some, not to others. So some variables might make sense to one community, and it might not make sense to another. Okay, and this is the whole problem, that it is going to be harder to compare these two groups, or multiple groups are together. Okay, and this is the larger point, and this is the whole thing. Stratified sampling can potentially require a larger sample than would other methods. Okay, if you just say a random algorithm, just select me 10 people, it will just select randomly 10 people, but then there is a problem that it can select all 10 males as well, right? And then it might look like your company is completely biased towards male. Okay, if you go systematic sampling, still you can miss out someone. Maybe you can still miss out LGBTQ just because of the systematic jumping. Okay, because you are, let's say, jumping 10 employees, 10 employees, 10 employees. Okay, so that can also exclude them out, even if you try to take this one, but because the percentage is so low, they are not getting even one seat or like one position in those 10 profiles. Okay, so you might need to take a slightly bigger sample just to accommodate them, or you will have to break your proportion rule over there.
Yeah, we came across this sampling because when we are dealing with the salaries of the employees from the outside to inside, how the market is performing.
Okay, so what did you find over there, if I may ask?
I mean, the techniques I'm not sure, but we are getting from the outside information. We will consolidate it, and what is that? Suppose particular division is there for that particular group of employees. This division should contain this many employees with this average range of salary. So
Okay, all right.
that is the use case, because we may come to encounter some problems based on this. So because of there may be expertise as well as experience come into the picture, as well as division ability as well.
No, no, yeah, I understand that that becomes actually a pretty complicated maths after a while because there are so many variables you have to first consider. You cannot even stratify them really fast because you cannot just use one variable to stratify them. Experience
Yeah,
is shared, then their previous salary,
this is
what
yeah
kind of
this is
background
this
you
is
have.
like a data transformation project where we are getting the outside information. From here we are consolidating in that particular within the company from the outside information as well, and how the movement, suppose if you one particular division within the company is more employees with that particular division, just move that to some other division where we can balance that
Yeah, so the
according to the
balance, just to even balance, you will have to move it to some other division. Yeah, I understand that
yeah.
problem. Yeah, so with stratified sampling, these are some problems, especially the last one is pretty tricky actually to solve because sometimes you will require actually a much larger sample just to even balance everything out. Otherwise, in a smaller sample, the proportions are not balanced actually. Okay, is this clear?
Yeah, I
Stratified
got it.
sampling. But let's say if you want to maintain representativeness, then what you will do? Then we come to something called cluster sampling. So let me actually show the picture first, it is easier. Rather than going by proportion, you select the clusters which you want to enforce, okay? And inside the cluster, it could be a single stage, two stage. Either you select all of them if each cluster, especially for minorities, it is actually useful. Or you can still do the random sampling inside the cluster itself. Here, there is no pressure that we have to maintain the proportion, first of all. That is one major difference between cluster sampling and stratified sampling. Get it? So here you only choose which you are interested in. It could be minority, majority, whichever subgroup that you are interested in. Clusters are also subgroups itself. Okay. Now the issue is you don't have to first of all select all of them. You only select on which you are focusing. Okay. So you can maybe think of multiple groups here, or maybe you can worry about like different departments of or different divisions in a company. So maybe you have your tech teams here, tech are here, managers are here. Okay. Maybe your testers are here. Maybe your DB people are here. Okay. And maybe these are your web programmers. Okay. So you could have different domains and stuff over there. And you can choose like, okay, I don't want to consider all of them. Let's just worry about DB and the web programmers. How many of we have and what is the representation of them? Such sampling is called cluster sampling, where you already pre-intimidate that which one you want to focus on. Get the idea?
Sorry, sir. Then how it is different with that stratified? Cause in
Because in
stratified,
stratified, you select all of them. And you have to maintain the proportion. Here, there is no pressure on maintaining the proportion or even selecting all of them. You just select the clusters that you want. Okay, so subgroups, stratas, and you can just go forward with them. And you don't even have to worry about maintaining a proportion here. In stratified sampling, if you have to maintain the
yeah.
proportion. That is the primary difference here.
But in both the cases, the strata
Subgroup,
what we are doing means subgroup what we are doing, that is based on that homogeneous data.
sorry, I did not get it. Homogeneous in what sense?
Means in stratified, as we have seen, the same kind of
Groups. So
subgroup.
the kind of points that put together, right? That's what. Yeah. That rule will be
And
followed.
here also in cluster, the similar kind of nature of subgroups we are gathering in a cluster.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Similar.
means what you are saying, trying to say means that will be depending upon the proportion of the subgroup.
Wait. Just let's try to understand this problem first. So first of all, you will group them or stratify them as it is. Okay, there is no discussion about that. Similar looking points or similar points are grouped or clustered together. Okay, we can agree on this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does it works? There could be there is one stage cluster sampling and two stage sampling. If there are less number of points, so in one stage, what we do is we select all the points. Maybe it might have like 6 points, 6 is 2, and maybe this has like what? Let's call it 14, okay? So you can select all of them and it will try to maintain its universal ratio or universal values. But that's it. Then you, because these are small numbers, you can choose all of them, okay? But you are like, no, I just want equal numbers of DB specialists as well as web developers. So then what you do is you go for, let's say three samples from here, 3 samples from here. So how would you select the 3 samples from, let's say, the DB group and 3 samples from your web design group?
Random.
Yeah, you will do the random selection thing. Okay. Here you just try to maintain your own proportion, which has nothing to do with their global proportion. If you can find that many points, you can just randomly select those. Okay. So can you see the approach or difference in our approach, how we are tackling the cluster sampling issue?
This kind of mix of the random sampling and stratified sampling.
You can say that, but there is a slightly different thing that you choose which one you want to focus on. So the population is divided into clusters of homogeneous unit. Okay. Sampling units are groups rather than individual, although there is 2 stages, first stages and second stage. Okay. Now you can select all the units. Okay. But still if you have, so that will be one stage clustering. Okay. One stage cluster sampling that you just select all the points from the group. But if there still the points are too large and you do not want that many samples anyways, then you can do the random sampling, that is 2-stage sampling. Okay. 2-stage cluster sampling.
So the difference is that we do random sampling within the cluster, as in because if we choose as the blue cluster and the red cluster and mix them, then basically we are redefining the population. But what you're saying is we pick them out, keep them separate, and within those we then choose either random or one stage depending upon what we want.
Yeah, we can, depending on how many points we have. If both of them have less number of points and we can just take both of them and start processing, then we can just mix them directly. Okay, that is one stage.
Sir, I have one query.
Yeah.
When we are making cluster, it is a possibility like we can pick some of the variables from the other cluster also, or it will never happen?
No, it can happen. Definitely. There's no guarantee that you will be able to cluster perfectly everything.
So how to avoid that, sir?
It's like, let's wait for machine learning for that. Okay. That is like a really long shot that you have asked me right now.
Okay.
There's a lot of math and there's a lot of story in between that. How do you reach to that point? So it is not gonna be easy to like have this, but still you can do through some outlier removal or noise removal that you can try to minimize this problem that every group should stay in their own group. Okay. They should not cross over or something, but yeah, there's a lot of theory before that. Okay. That is in clustering that we actually try to understand. Just understand that, okay, let's run some clustering algorithms or if the data is already given, if I already know which class belongs to which, okay, apart from clustering, we can also think them as the data already has labels. So I already know which class belongs to which output. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
See, whatever you marked it, suppose consider red mark, whatever the red mark you are showing, it's contain 100 elements. But whatever that remaining element is, size is 4, so we don't have a data. So in this case, how we will match the 100 number within the next another cluster? So it needs to match. Suppose I want to get 100 employees of the tech category, 100 employees of the H category from the each cluster, and we need to map how they are performing it. So in this case, the size of the sampling is less. How we will match this size to this size?
No, but do you even have 100 employees in tech, first of all? Your sample cannot be bigger than the population, first of all.
Okay.
Yeah, that I hope that is obvious to everyone. Your sample is a subset. We are always maintaining this part. You cannot just go bigger than the whole population and just say, okay, let's go 110 employees. Even if you do not have 90 employees, you cannot do that. There is something called a rule called extrapolation. Okay, you can maybe extrapolate your data You can say that, okay, extrapolation would look like this. Sometimes people just copy it. Sometimes there is a graphical idea that if my function is like here, okay. So if I were to ask you to extrapolate, what you will do? If you have a good understanding of the function, the hope is you will be able to plot it forward and backward as well. So let's say backward is not important. Anyways, negative, we cannot have a negative employee count. So we are just trying to understand with respect to time, how our employee count is gonna go up. Okay, so you can do this. You can extrapolate some data. You can create artificial or synthetic samples to match your data. That is done. But again, that is really not the topic I want to cover right now, because that is a different maths altogether. But if you consider let's say 90 people in tech anyways, so sample could be maximum 90 anyways. Like we have to understand this point very clearly. Your sample cannot go beyond 90 points for the tech, let's say. Or if you come with a cluster which is containing tech, then you only have 90 employees anyways in the tech right now. So you cannot take a sample of 100 over there. So what? Okay, so if you wanted to balance it out, then what you will do? Let's say you want to balance it out with some other group. Let's say the other group has 120. So maybe in some other group like analyst or something, you have some 120 people. Okay. So here taking 100 was not a big issue. So if you want to maintain proportion, I will just say, okay, go 50-50 for both of them.
Okay.
Okay. And also you have to understand there are two things. There is something called sampling. And there is also something called filtering. Okay. So be very careful. Are you really doing a sampling or you are just trying to do a filtering? Okay. Try to understand these two things are slightly different. Sampling follows some mathematical rules. Filtering follows some constraints provided by us. It could be simple if else. Okay, so you can implement them in pandas using if else actually. So make sure that you are trying to do a sampling. You are not trying to do a filtering. A lot of people are actually trying to do filtering in these examples, but they confuse it with a sampling problem. So you are not really trying to do a sample. Means of course, individually, later you can call it a sample, but you are using filtering rules because you have very hard coded rules with you how to kind of take out that data. That might not be mathematically correct, first of all, but you have figured it out like this is the mathematical or this is the sense of the data I want to see. So then you are doing a filtering that you already have some rules how to match or how to select the data. You can go ahead with it, no problem. Okay, so make sure that you are always dealing with sampling, or otherwise you might be actually dealing with a filtering problem rather. Now, filtering problem is very much humanly decided or very much decided by each organization. So it is hard to like cover up that idea. But again, you can take up any rule, maybe make a if else scenario, and you can divide up your data like that.
Got it.
Okay, so just be careful that your sample definitely cannot be bigger than your overall population or the size of the cluster in this case.
So what I understood, like in clustering sample, there is no constraint that it has to fit into that 100 thing. What we were doing in stratified, there we had to like have the total 100%, and we were just
So whatever sample you took, you will try to maintain that ratio of the proportion.
ratio. Yeah, but here we have no boundary that we have to maintain that ratio. We can pick things according to our need.
Exactly. So you first of all do not have to even consider all the subgroups or stratas. That is one point. You can, but you don't have to. Okay. And the second thing, you can choose like, okay, I will choose 5 from the red ones and 5 from the blue ones. No one is going to stop you. Even their proportion is not correct. Okay. The proportion might be 3 to 7 basically here, if you were to look very carefully. But you can make it equal, 5-5. It happens actually, again, same diversity issues. So again, you can think like there's red points as the number of males and maybe blue points as number of females. So sometimes when organization want to show proper diversity in their company, you know what they will do? They will focus 5 female profile, 5 male profiles. But how is it possible? If you were to do stratified sampling, that's not possible, right?
Yes.
So you do a cluster sampling. You identify both them as separate clusters and you choose 5 from that blue points and 5 from your red ones. So now it looks equal, that you have equal representation to the outsider.
Sir, one more question.
Sure.
So now we are selecting based upon what we want. So like then in that case our result might be biased, right?
Yeah,
So
but that's what I just told you, right? Yeah, that is what the power of cluster sampling is, that you can represent or show the data in any way. And yeah, there is a problem that if you do that, you might induce your own biases here. Okay, so that was one negative point that we have. We will talk about it. That it can also mean that you could also now put these kind of negative biases in the system.
hmm.
Okay, so yeah, you have to be worried about that problem as well. Basically, that cluster sampling, if not done properly, or if the proportions are totally ignored, you could very easily put your own personal bias over there as well. Yeah, that can happen.
So, Amritansh, one quick question.
Yeah, please.
So, in the stratified sampling, right? So, how each strata will be chosen?
Okay, so again, you can come to the grouping or clustering thing. Right now, you can think like we already know which point is what. We know which employee is a male, identifies as a male, which employees identify as a female, and which person identifies as a part of LGBTQ. Okay. So of course, we can do in mathematics or when we will deal with data science. So in data science, there are usually two ways of doing things. Okay. So you might have a supervised data and you might have unsupervised data. So what is supervised data?
Which have labels?
Yeah, supervised data already have labels. So we very well know what is your outcome. So we don't have to guess anything over there. But yes, there is unsupervised ideas as well. So if you have unsupervised data, then basically there are no labels, let's say. So then you will have to run some clustering methods, okay, to separate them into proper clusters. And then once you have separated them into proper clusters or stratas, then again you can do the sampling. Make sense? So most of the time you actually deal with supervised data. 90% times you can believe that you will be dealing with some kind of supervised data where labels are already provided. So of course I know which group this point belongs to.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So again, we are dealing with sampling and you have to try to understand it is with mostly in cases of data where it is already provided, which class or which output class it belongs to. So we already know, let's say all the employees in our organization, there's a high chance you will already know that which person identifies as male, female, or LGBTQ. So I don't think so that you have to worry about like clustering, even in population. So in India, I think we are going to have census count right now. Actually, should have happened this year, but I think it will be delayed now. Okay, so in India now census count will happen and people will come to your home with massive. So most of these are public, so basically public service employees, basically your teachers and school teachers. So these will be sent to your homes with a large number of forms and they will basically collect your information. Okay. And basically India's census will be again like kind of calculated because the last census information we have is from 2011 itself. So again, the census will be kind of calculated and we will see that whatever happens. So census is again like calculating about the whole population. And when government have to make policies, they will take various sampling methods. Okay. Or sometimes they will have to use a filtering method to be very precise. Okay. And then that's how they make rules and policies and which can impact largest portions of society or they can benefit large amount of people. Okay. So that is what is going to happen. And if the COVID scenario was not there, a lot of people who are residing in India might have been already visited by people from the census department, census basically calculating the information about you. So they will be taking a lot of information that maybe what is your job, how many people in family are there and stuff. Okay. So over there, the idea is to know these labels. Labels, any examples? Okay, so you can take like n number, so many different examples. Okay, so if I were to ask you the color of the car, okay, so it could be the color of the car, whatever color, red, white, black, whatever it is. Labels could be also about simple yes and no. Whatever happens, is it a positive result? Is it a negative result? You can take like Boston Housing or Iris dataset. So let me actually show you. Okay, so maybe you can once you see the dataset, it will be slightly easier. I know you don't hadn't to deal too much with the data set, but maybe after a while things will change. You will have to deal with data sets every day. But just be patient. Yeah, so these species in this example, one sec. See these species? So these are your income features A, B, C, D, and this species is the outcome. So we of course know which one belongs to which class. It's like a flower classification based on sepal and petal width and length, and already 150 examples have been given, let's say. And basically you have to train your machine learning classifiers to kind of identify them. And even if you wanted to just sample, you already have the outcome. So there are, let's say, 3 classes: Setosa, versicolor, and virginica. Yeah. So you already know the labels, so it is not very hard to separate them into 3 groups and maybe do a stratified sampling. Or even if you were to do a random sampling in this case, because the representation is very equal, like 0.33, 0.33 in all cases, it's like even random sampling will be more than enough here than rather than doing stratified sampling. Remember, stratified sampling, cluster sampling are mostly ways to highlight or give the equal representation to the minority classes. Okay. If everything is well balanced, then you do not require stratified or cluster sampling, ideally. Okay. Uh, of course, cuts down the cost of preparing a sampling frame, but then sampling error is high. Okay, because again, you are trying to break the overall proportions. So yes, it can happen. The sampling error might be very high here because you have kind of almost ignored the proportion idea. So the error that you are going to get from sampling it could be pretty high. And this is what we were just mentioning, that yes, you might have by mistake or by not thinking very clearly enough here, you might have introduced a personal bias in the whole system. Okay, and that can cause issues now. And again, as I just told you, that it is two ways. It is one stage, all the elements within selected clusters are included in the sample, okay? Or 2 stage, if still samples or clusters are really big and your cluster sample size is smaller. So you can take a subset of these elements, which are again randomly selected itself. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And just to be very clear, one last time, there is a difference between both of them because people do get very confused. What is the difference between strata and cluster sampling?
Strata takes
Proportions.
Remember, all strata are represented in sample, okay? But there is a chance that only a subset of clusters are in the sample, okay? So that is one of the major differences between strata and cluster sampling. Because if you were to think about it, if you were to take all the clusters and if you were to take all the points, then again you are just doing kind of a stratified sampling. Although it's not a sampling now, it's anyway the whole population. So it's not much of a sampling anyway. So in cluster sampling, there is also this idea that you don't have to choose all the clusters. If you choose all the clusters, then it's not much of then it's like a wasted effort anyways. Like if you were to choose all the clusters, why don't you go just with the stratified sampling? Okay. Now it is said that basically in stratified sampling, best survey results occur when elements within the strata are internally homogeneous. So in each data, it is internally homogeneous, then it is better. But with the cluster sampling, it is said that it is better that within the cluster elements are internally heterogeneous. Now this is slightly a prickly point, especially the second point here, that why they need to be slightly heterogeneous or they should be heterogeneous from each other. Now the bigger point is because you are not capturing all the data, what can happen is you can leave or you can miss out on a lot of features. So the idea is if you have some heterogeneity around these clusters, and even if you were just to choose few clusters, not all the clusters, you would still be able to capture the richness of data, okay? Because stratified sampling, again, we are capturing all the data anyways. So we are not going to miss any feature, but this can very easily happen in cluster sampling. If again, they are all just homogeneous, because homogeneous have one property is that they might have something different from some other ones. Okay. So if there is some heterogeneity available over there, the hope is even selecting few clusters, we can still capture the large variation or the large variance of the data. Okay, that is why we are looking into this point, that's why we want to capture elements, or within the cluster we want them a bit heterogeneous. Now this is interesting. What is a convenience sampling? It is literally what it is, what the name suggests. It is convenience. Okay. So convenience is literally like, okay, first of all, a disclaimer here. It is not really a mathematical way of doing sampling, first of all. So its results are not much mathematically valid, but you would run into scenarios where there is no option. Let's say you do not have any data. So you will have to do convenience sampling. So any idea what is convenience sampling? Maybe let me show you the picture.
Getting whatever is available.
Yeah, whatever is available, or you like literally go people to people and ask them their reviews. Let's say you want to launch a new perfume or a new soap. So you send few people to a mall, let's say, and tell them to give them kind of a small sample of the perfume, and means let them smell it and tell them the reviews, like what they think about your like fragrance of that perfume. Okay, or give them an instant feedback. Okay, so now that is not very mathematically correct, because again you can just see that anyways the whatever path you might have took, or whatever kind of people might have just crossed your path, you can only get their results. Now the hope is it is internally very valid and it will take care of it, but again it's just a hope, it is not a mathematical guarantee. Once 1 minute guys, just 1 minute. Okay, sorry. So the idea is very simple. The interviewer was to conduct a survey at a shopping center. So they could only interview the people who, let's say, cross their path, or whom path they cross, basically, technically. Okay. Now, just to counter it, you might have to be like, again, it depends on which day of the week you are there, how many time was your frequency. Let's say you go in early morning or afternoon, you might not be able to capture that kind of crowd. Maybe if you go a bit in evening, or especially around weekends in India, you might be able to capture a pretty big and decent crowd over there. So convenience sampling is literally what the name says. Whatever is convenient, you collect the data from there. Okay. So whichever is close to hand. Okay. And now this people who are maybe close to your hand might not be the best examples. Okay, so remember, you cannot make a scientific generalization, and mostly this kind of sampling is useful for a pilot testing when you have literally no data available. So you start there, you convert that data, you make some sense, and again, you maybe refine your product, and maybe now this time you connect, or you try to do a better sampling method, or you try to do these samplings. Actually, I was looking into, sometimes I also like on YouTube, basically I see like a lot of these people from doing from blogs and stuff on YouTube, especially you can see this. So they go and ask, let's say, the urban people in India, in urban India, about their opinions about let's say various things like which are, let's say, taboo in our society, like kind of sexual relationships, about elections, about politics and everything. But sometimes I feel like that is convenience sampling, right? If you really think about it, because then you are only asking the people who are like very well read and are living in metropolitan towns and have access to a lot of technology and Western thoughts. They seldom go to some, let's say, rural area or tier 2 or tier 3 city in India and ask them their opinion about these topics. And I think they will find a massively two different viewpoints that what is happening. And plus the age group is also very young, right? They are not targeting very people who are beyond 50 or 60 years of old. So that is like convenience sampling. Even in the Facebook or Twitter, like many times if you have, let's say, a lot of followers on Facebook, you post something and so okay, one day what my friend tried to do is, it was long back, I think 1 or 2 years ago, he tried to take a survey on Facebook, and again his most friends were from his colleagues and friends, and I told him that that it is not a correct way of doing a sampling. He was like trying to conduct a survey and try to make a point, and I just told him that it is not a correct way of doing a sampling here, because most of the friends might have some kind of emotional connect with you, first of all. So maybe they don't want to offend you or something. So you are not 100% sure that even this sampling has any validity. But yes, as a pilot program, that's what you can do. Okay, sometimes you just don't have any data to make your point. So that's what you do. You go to 10 people that you know. But remember, please do not try to think like this is scientifically valid. Just do not come up with a scientific generalization that if I have sampled 10 people around me or in my family, and if they say this and this must be true. No, don't do that mistake. That is just convenience sampling. That might be good for getting some initial ideas, but that is definitely not scientifically true. So you should not trust that kind of sampling. Unfortunately, even our news and media is doing that. They're basically just doing a convenience sampling all the day. And somehow they are projecting as a truth to us. Like, yeah, this is the reality, which is not. It is far away from that reality, actually. Does this make clear, like what is convenience sampling and why you should not usually trust it?
Yes.
Okay. And in social science, it is called, or sometimes it is referred as snowball sampling. Snowball is like whatever your existing study subjects, you just tell them to recruit more people. So the same problem, right? They might recruit the people who are exactly like them. So you're not going to capture any variation in the data. So in this example, you can see, let's say there are three groups of people. One is represented by green, one is represented by blue, and one is represented by purple or the maroon, purple color. Let's call it purple. Yeah, and you can see that the path or the walk you took in that mall or on that floor shows that there is only one blue person and three. So you can take a proportion like this. And of course, the red one is researcher. So please not try to confuse that. So you can conclude there doesn't exist a class which is, let's say, purple. Even your proportions are wrong. Maybe your proportions are also wrong here. So this is what convenience sampling is, guys. Any questions?
So not on convenience sampling.
Yeah, you can.
For me, but if you can go to slide number 17. I had just one question on this last line. Actually, I was just rechecking my understanding of homogeneous and heterogeneous. So when you say stratified sampling occurs when elements within the strata are internally homogeneous. So this is not for the whole population. Whatever strata that we choose for, let's say we choose 3 strata, let's say a man, woman, and child.
Okay, so if you sum all of the strata, the idea is it will become basically whole population.
Okay.
See, in this picture, the stratas are the, let's say, the sections which contain their individual colors. This is strata. All they are, let's say, strata 1, 2, 3. So if you were to sum them, you will get the population. Make sense?
Yeah.
These are the samples. So try not to confuse the 2 points here. Okay, now what is the question exactly?
My question was, if you go to the slide, what I read is with stratified sampling, the best survey results occur when the elements within strata are internally homogeneous.
Exactly.
So within strata, meaning that if I choose, let's say if I have 3 strata in the population, let's say one is male, female, and children or child, or sorry, adult, male, adult, female, and children, then adult male has to be homogeneous, or all three put together you are saying is adding up to the population? That's what you're saying.
Strata. So each subgroup should be homogeneous internally.
Okay. And when the cluster sampling, the best of when the element within the cluster are internally heterogeneous. So
yeah, why again? Because you can pick and choose here, right? So the idea is if you have some heterogeneity internally, even in these clusters, even if you were to pick and choose just 3 clusters out of 5, you will still be able to understand there would be some variance in the data that would be present. Okay, I can give you a simple example. Maybe let's not complicate these things. Let's take some examples. So basically what we are trying to understand here is, and what we are trying to say is, we are not saying that include all the points or something like that. But yeah, there should be some heterogeneity. Why? In sense, because, okay, so maybe different people use different tools, right? So a tool that DB people will use, and let's say someone like with testers. Now maybe developers use some different tools, okay? Maybe managers will use different tools to manage the workflow and everything, okay? There would be DevOps teams as well. They will be using different tools. So if you were to just sample, let's say these two, okay, and you can forget the rest of them, you might be able to come at some point, or you might think that maybe, okay, the pipeline is not important, or maybe the pipeline element doesn't exist in this sample. But that's wrong either, unless maybe there is not a unified pipeline, but there is a pipeline element. So if you have some heterogeneity, so if some DB people are also connected with DevOps, okay, so they handle some DevOps work, or they also overlook the DevOps part. So the idea is if you were to sample or correctly correct it, so there, if you introduce some heterogeneity somehow in this group, and same with the testers, you can idealize that, yes, there is some part of pipeline, kind of a machine learning pipeline or software work pipeline is also involved in the whole process. Because you might think like with the DB or the testers individually, if they were completely homogeneous and they are, let's say, not communicating with anything else, then it might look something different. You might come to a conclusion which might not be corrected. In stratified sampling, you are forced to take all of them. Okay, so even if all of them were homogeneous, because you are taking all 5 of them,
it is
you will have to
representative.
come to that one. So that is the kind of a idea that basically we are floating.
So when you say cluster, basically meaning that while we have clustered it, there could be an overlap because of the skill set, like what you mentioned.
Exactly, because we have we have created a cluster, and it might not be perfect first of all. Okay. So you also have to think about that. Yeah, if it is better that if it is slightly heterogeneous, it might actually work in our advantage.
Got that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anything else, guys?